This meeting is being recorded.
Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to this program of the University of Arkansas Small Business Technology and Development Center. If you don't already know about our Business Development Center, we are a one-stop shop for startups and existing small businesses. We are associated with the University of Arkansas and affiliated with the SBA and statewide ASB TDC, as well as a national network of more than 1,000 small business centers. Locally, we offer a lot. We offer complimentary one-on-one consulting that includes business planning, market analysis, financial projections, as well as programs just like the one that you are watching today with relevant topics that are for you, the small business owners. If you're not already a client, we encourage you to become one, and you can visit us at sbtdc.uark.edu. I also put in the chat box my email because after sessions like this, I do have a lot of emails that come in more customized for exactly what you guys are doing with Excel. My email also is ccase@walton.uark.edu. And I've also got that in the chat. So please make sure that you take advantage of that because like I said, this is just kind of touching just the top of PivotTables, and I want you to be able to have access with your customized spreadsheets. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And what I first want to do is I first want to tell you about the benefits of pivot tables. This is a tool built into Excel, pivot tables, and pivot charts that will save you an enormous amount of time. They're also flexible. So when you actually create your spreadsheet, you create a pivot table or a pivot chart based off of that. You're able to filter, move around information, take out information, use formulas. So there's so much information that you can derive from these pivot tables. You can also pull out external information into pivot tables. So you bring together different spreadsheets of information into a pivot table report. What I want you to do, if you are in front of your computer, I want you to go ahead, because it is a small group today, so I want to be able to play around with some of the information and have you create a pivot table. But you can go ahead and enter in this information. I entered in 8 rows of information. You really don't have to enter in all that. But if you just do date, item, and price, and even enter in 5 dates, 5 items, and 5 prices, that would be really helpful. Make sure you have at least 2 of the same dates and 2 of the same items so you can see how we group all this information together. So as you're doing that, I'm just going to give you just a couple minutes to enter in that information. But again, a pivot table and a pivot chart is a reporting tool for you guys. So you have a large amount of data that you have entered in, and what you do is base that or build that pivot table or pivot chart based off of that information. And so it allows you to group the information. It allows you to filter the information. It allows you to pick and choose what you want to add, average, count. So it's one of those tools that will save you a huge amount of time, and it's a lot easier than what you think it is. So people kind of avoid this because they think it's harder than what it is. I'm going to show you just how easy it is today to create a pivot table. Okay, so I'm going to go back over to you guys and make sure you don't have any questions. I'm going to try to monitor this myself today. Okay, great. And Grace is on there also helping me. So if you guys have any questions, let me know and she will try to chime in. But yeah, I try to keep track of the chat and create pivot tables, which doing double sometimes is not the easiest for me to do. Okay. So here's what I'm going to do. And if you've entered in that data, great, try to follow along with me. If not, again, like I say in all my Excel spreadsheets, if I show you what Excel can do, the steps are not the big deal. That's where you can contact me and we can work that out. But just knowing the capabilities of Excel is really the main thing. So pivot tables. How you enter your data is really important in pivot tables. It's like a database. So you want to make sure that you have columns, just like I have column A for date, column B with items, and then column C with prices. So you want to be able to enter it in similar to this. So I'm going to back up here for just a second because I want to show you, some people just want to filter. If you want to filter out just your printers, if you want to filter out all of the sales that you made on January 1st, you can just do the filter option. You don't have to do a pivot table. So I get that question a lot, the confusion, I really just want to filter. Do I have to put all the data in a pivot table? And the answer to that is no. So to filter the information, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click somewhere inside the data. And then up here on your ribbons, you've got a data ribbon. And if you click on that, you'll see over to the right, you've got filter options. If I just click this little funnel, the filter button, notice over here on row 3, date, item, and time, it's going to turn on a little drop down arrow. That's all you have to do to turn on the filter. And again, what that is for is maybe I just want to filter out all the printers that I sold. If I click on the drop down arrow beside item, I can go ahead and down here, uncheck everything and just check printer. And I click on OK, and it filters out just the printer. It does not delete any of that information. It's just filtering out what I'm asking it to filter out. Then if I want everything back, I just come back up to the same filter button and I select all, or I can even clear the filter. And I click on OK. So again, I get that question a lot. If all you want to do from your data is filter out specific information, or even a combination, maybe a date within a date, maybe a month of information, maybe every price that's over $600, all you really have to do is just go to your data ribbon and then turn on your filter button, and you'll have these drop down arrows beside there. Okay. So I'm going to go back to you guys. Any questions about just using filter without even getting into the pivot tables or pivot charts? Okay. I will continue on. Okay, let me turn off these filters. Not that it's a big deal, but I'm going to go ahead and turn those off. And again, I'm just under the data ribbon, and I just went back up to filter to turn those off. Okay, pivot tables. I think this is, again, one of my favorite tools in Excel because it takes a large amount of information and it allows you to simplify it and put it into a report to give you information that only you want to know. So you still have the data. A pivot table will create a separate tab down here at the bottom so it does not mess with your sheet that has all your data on it. That's separate. It will create a separate sheet for either your pivot table or your pivot chart. So I'm just going to click somewhere inside the data. And then if you click on the insert ribbon on your menu bar up there at the ribbons, you're going to see over here, you've got a couple options for pivot tables. And then over here, we'll get to this later on, but you also have charts and pivot charts. Okay, so what I'm going to do first is show you how a built-in pivot table is already for you, is set up for you. So I'm in the data, and there is an option that says recommended pivot tables. So what Excel does is it's looking at your data and it thinks it knows what's best. And it's really kind of easy. It's kind of a pivot table wizard. So when you click on that, it's going to recommend a couple pivot tables and sometimes more, depending on your data, of what maybe it thinks you want to do. So if you want to create some by price of item, that's an option there. And then some by price of item where it's kind of changing around a little bit with the grand total. But I'm just going to go ahead and select this first one and OK. And it already created a pivot table for me. Now, let me explain this a little bit before I go back and have you guys create one from scratch. So what it did is, again, you've got all your data still down here on sheet 1. If I click on sheet 1, it did not mess up my data at all. It created actually for me a sheet 12 just because I've been playing around with it so much. For you, it probably says sheet 2 if you're following around with me. So here what it did is, again, it assumed what I wanted, that my row labels are going to be the sums and then my column are the items. Over here to the right, let me explain this a little bit before I back up and create one from scratch. What the pivot table option does in this menu over on the right it's giving you all your items. And then down here, it's allowing you to filter, which I'll show you in just a second is already built in. But what do you want for columns? What do you want for rows? And what do you want for values? Okay, so all the work that you're going to be doing is over here on the right. Let me back up here a second because for myself, I create them from scratch, and I'll show you just how easy it is because it just allows you to drag what you want into the columns or the rows or the values. So I'm going to go back over here to sheet 1. So I'm on sheet 1 where my data is. I'm going to make sure again, I'm somewhere inside the data. I'm going to click on the insert ribbon from that menu bar at the top. And then I'm going to come over here and just click on the pivot table button, the top part of that button there. It's asking me what is the table range, and you'll see the dotted lines are going all around the information because I had clicked in there to start with, so it knew what to pick up. And I'm going to go ahead and just click on OK. So now it's giving me a blank screen, and this is so much easier for me to do. Over again to the right-hand side where you see the pivot table menu, what I'm going to do is I'm going to decide what fields I want where. So again, I've got a columns area, a rows area, and then a values area. So let's say I think I want my items in the column area. Then as I'm going step by step, it's showing me what I'm doing right over here. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, maybe I don't want that. I think I want them lined up in the rows. All I have to do over in the pivot table area is come click, hold, and drag that down into rows. So this is easier for me to do because I see it step by step rather than having the recommended option. I can kind of move stuff around here and actually visually see it. So I like that. I like that the rows are set, or the rows are setting up with my items. Then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to grab date and drag that down to columns and say, okay, is this what I want? Again, I'm seeing it as I'm creating it. Maybe again, I've switched my mind. That's why I love pivot tables, because I can't make up my mind a lot of times in Excel what I want until I see it. So here I can move it around. So I'm going to change my mind again. I want to move items up to columns, and I want to move dates down to rows. There we go. That's more of what I'm looking for. So again, I've got my dates listed, and then I've got in my columns, my items. And then my last thing I'm going to do for this very simple pivot table is my price. I'm going to drag that down into the values area. Okay. And there I've got my pivot table. Now, right now, as a default, it is summing all of that. Maybe I just want a count. If I click on the drop down arrow right beside my sum of price, one of the options that you will use a lot if you want to average, if you want to count, you're going to click on value field settings, and then you have all your different options. And maybe I just want to count. I don't want to know the overall sum. I want to know how many computers, how many printers, and how many keyboards I've sold. So I click on count. Okay, and there's my count. So again, a pivot table is a work in progress. You can come in and change whatever you want. You're not messing with the original data. You're creating step by step your report. Okay, so now what I want to do next, and then I'll walk through these steps all over again just so you can see it. But you'll notice again, those drop down arrows are those filter buttons. Remember how I did just the filter before without doing all this fancy pivot table stuff? Maybe I want to click on the drop down arrow and I just want to print out or see everything or nothing, but actually my printers. I want to take everything away and just view my printers. And there's my pivot table for just my printers. I click on that little button again, and I think I want to see my laptops too. And there it goes. So a lot of times I use this in meetings because I'm getting questions as we go. And I'll have somebody say, well, I don't really care about those two because my department is keyboards. So I can click on that button, take everything away, and just do keyboards and click on OK. So it is an absolute work in progress. I can answer questions as they're being asked to me, and I can adjust it as we go. Okay, so there's the simple concept of pivot tables. I'm going to come back over to you guys and see if you have any questions. Okay. Now, again, you guys, I know this is a lot. I know pivot tables, you can move stuff around. And when you watch somebody that really knows what they're doing, you feel like they're just zipping through as fast as they can possibly go. Just a basic pivot table is just as you go along, you're just grabbing what you need and dragging it to where you need it to be. Okay, so that's just your basic pivot table. And again, the benefit is creating a large amount of data, pulling it in and filtering out just what you want on the fly. So let me go back here over to the pivot or to the Excel spreadsheet. Let me walk through these steps again. I'm going to go back over to my sheet 1 because my sheet 1 is where my data is. So again, if you guys are following along, your sheet 1 is probably where your data is, where you've entered it in. But don't pay attention to any of my other sheets. I've got sheet 12, sheet 13. I've got a farm sheet. You're probably not going to see all those. So the steps again, number 1, type in your data. Number 2, click somewhere inside your data. That's just easier for me to do. It's not a must, but it's easier for me to do because Excel will then know what I want to put in my pivot table. Step number 3, click on the insert ribbon up there at the top. Step number 4, I'm going to click on the top part of this pivot table button. Step number 5, since it's already automatically selected the cells that I want, I'm just going to click on OK. And then the last step is to figure out where you want all that information. So again, I'm going to grab date, click, hold, and drag it in my columns. I'm going to click, hold, and drag item down to my rows. And then I'm going to click, drag price into values. And again, not a big deal. If you want to change something, you just come over here in this area and you click, hold, and drag where you want to drag. And you see a live action view as you're dragging. So you'll know what you want. Again, if you want to change something about the formula, you click on the drop down arrow beside sum of price. You click on value settings. And then you can change whatever you want. And there's all kinds of different formulas in there that you can use. I'm just going to leave it on sum and click on OK. And then again, another big advantage is this is all my data right now. As the questions are coming in, they're going to want simple information. They might just want all of the sales that we had on the first. They might just want me to print out laptops and keyboards. So again, you've got the drop down arrows that will allow you to do just that. And there you go. Pivot tables are honestly that easy. So I'm going to come back over to you guys once again and make sure that there's no questions. Okay, let me jump into, I've got another spreadsheet, another tab down there at the bottom that has a lot of information in there. And I'm going to show you even more impressive pivot tables actually are. So I'm going to come back over here to my Excel. I'm going to click on my farm tab down there at the bottom. And I've got a lot of information in there. So what I've got a column of dates. I've got a column of farms, the products that those farms that I can buy. So I've got seeds and fuel and lubricants. And then I've got even from there categories. So for seeds, I might have pea seed. I might have potato seed. I might have corn seed, carrot seed, bean seed. And then I've got the quantity. So again, this is my database. I'm a farmer and I'm buying from other farmers to kind of fulfill my farm, and I'm buying seed and lubricants and fuels from other farmers. So again, I've got the dates that I'm purchasing these items, the farms I'm purchasing them from, the overall category, the description, and then the quantity. So again, it's as easy as this, guys. I just click inside the spreadsheet somewhere inside of the data. I click on the insert ribbon at the top. I click on the top of that pivot table button. And again, if for some reason I look over here and it's not highlighting the right information, you can come over here and click on this button and go back and manually do that. I just like Excel doing the work for me. So that's why I click somewhere inside the data. Remember though, in Excel, if you've taken any of my other Excel classes, if you have an empty row in there, it will stop at that point. So, you know, I've got rows and rows and rows of all this information. If for some reason row 20 is empty for whatever reason, Excel is not smart enough to hop over that and to continue on. It's going to think you just want that information. Okay, so remember that part. I'm going to click on OK. And again, I'm just going to come over here and I'm going to just kind of play around with what I think I want. So I'm going to grab the date and I'm going to put that in columns. Oops, there we go. I'm going to grab, let's say, the purchaser, which is the farmer. And I'm going to put that in rows. And I'm going to take a look at this right now and go, okay, maybe that's not exactly what I want. So I'm going to go ahead and grab the date and put that down into rows. Here, let me grab those. I accidentally held down too far. So that's why it was coming up with quarters and years. Okay, so I'm looking over there. I've got my farms and my dates under rows, and I'm like, that's not really what I want either. So I'll grab my purchaser, and I'm going to grab that up into columns. And I'm thinking, okay, now I'm getting somewhere. So again, do you see how you're not going to mess anything up? You could just click and hold and drag. Notice over here on the right, just like I made that mistake just a second ago, I accidentally held down too long and I had quarters and years down here, and that was not what I wanted. So I just drug those out. Okay, now I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, okay, I've got my dates, I've got my farms. I'm going to go ahead and do quantity and drag that down into values. And there we go. So this is part of, I love doing this one because I do all kinds of different pivot tables with this information. But I've got my days broken into the months. I've got my farmers. And then I've got my totals. Then if you had all the data in there that I have, you can even do more. So I'm going to come up here, and for category, I'm going to drag category under purchaser. And now look what I'm doing. I'm creating a more extensive pivot table. So I've got Annie Gunn, and I've got what I've purchased for her for fuel and lubricants and seed. Okay, there's Annie Gunn's total. Then I've got B&C Farms. I've broken that down into, this is what I've purchased from them with seeds. And I didn't purchase any lubricants or fuels, so there's my totals. And then I've got Ed's Farm, same thing. What I purchased from the fuel and lubricants, from the seed, and from the total. Okay, so again, notice how I clicked outside in this empty area, my pivot table menu item, my window over there to the right went away. If you click back in the pivot table, it knows what to do and it will come back up. Okay, so again, maybe this is not what I want. I'm going to grab category and drag that out. Maybe I want description and I'm going to drag that in. And now I'm coming down even more with, okay, carrot seed, corn seed, diesel fuel, motor oil. I'm breaking it down even more. Okay. Even then I can come back up and I can grab category, drag it down into columns. And I'm thinking, okay, now I'm starting to get a little bit more complicated, but this really isn't what I want, the levels. I want the farm but then really I want the category and then the description. You can actually click, hold, and drag over here and switch those around. Okay, let me drag down a little bit further. There. Okay, so now I've got purchaser, category, and description. And again, I know this spreadsheet and this data, so this is kind of easy for me to read. When you type in your spreadsheet of data, you're going to know better of what you're seeing and what you want to see. So here, again, I've got it broken down into the farms. Then I've got it broken down into the overall categories, and then the descriptions. And then again, if I want to back out of that, I'm going to grab the descriptions. I'm going to take away the categories, and I'm back to the column are my farms, the purchasers. The rows are the dates, and then the values are the quantity. Okay, let me come back over to you guys because I ran through a lot of information right there. Do I have any questions on why you would want to create a pivot table, the benefits of creating a pivot table, or just the basics of just how you create the pivot table? Don't worry about, how you organize it, because that's a whole nother level. Any questions? Okay, let me go back over here to Excel again. A couple things I want to kind of retrace and show you again is, remember when you click outside of there, and it always kind of makes me panic for just a second. And I've been doing pivot tables for years, but I'm thinking, okay, wait, where did my window to the right go? You need to be inside the data for your pivot. Other thing, don't forget down here, sheet 1, I'm not messing up any of my data. Or over on farm, I'm not messing up any of my data there with that pivot table information either. That's their separate. So you're only creating where you've got all your information. So that always scares people when they do that, because they think now they've lost their information. Just always look down here on your sheets and remember what that sheet number 1 is my data. I had the other example I gave you guys as farm, and all I did there again, and if you've taken any of my other Excel spreadsheets, to rename that, I just came down and double clicked on sheet. So I'm going to right click on sheet 12. I'm going to get that out of there. I'm going to right click on sheet 13 because I've been playing around a lot. I'm going to clean this a little bit before I walk through steps one more time. I'm going to right click on sheet 18 and delete. So I'm back to my 3 sheets I started the class with. My definitions that I just wanted to show you, my sheet 1 with all my keyboard information and computer information, and then my farm. Okay, so let me go back to the basic again. So type in your data, and if you've noticed, I typed it in a little bit separately. So in this one, I have a title, I've got an empty row, and then I've got the date, column, and price. If you go down to my farm one, notice I have nothing but row 1. I've got the date, purchaser, category, and description. So that part does not matter as long as you've got the data set up to where, do you see how I've got a column of date, a column of the farms, category, description, and quantity. Just like under sheet 1, date, item, and price. Now, this is why I want you guys all to save my email, because I just had a situation the other day where someone set up all of their data and they did not set it up properly to go into a pivot table. Do not retype that data. Like I said in all my other Excel classes, if you find yourself doing the same thing over and over again, please email me, because there's a really easy way to do that. And so what you can do with this is you can flip the data, and I won't go through that today. But if you need to do that, I can flip the data and have it come out to where the columns are like this, okay? Because before they had the rows, it was date, and then item, and then price. And then they had all the other information way out over here. So you can easily flip that. And that's what I can show you how to do. So if you've got data already set up out there, please don't retype it. We can figure out a way to make sure that it is in the format where the pivot table option will really build off that rather nicely. So again, you type in your data, you click somewhere inside the data, you go to the insert ribbon, you go to pivot tables, you click on OK, and then you just click, hold, and drag and play around to your heart's content. Now, I don't know why this is so much fun for me, but it is. So I just kind of sit there and play around in it. Now, let me back up here. One other thing that I want to show you is the pivot charts, but also, even though I don't have external data, know with pivot tables and pivot charts, it doesn't have to be inside of one spreadsheet. You can bring in, if you've got similar spreadsheets set up the same way, you can go out and bring all these spreadsheets into your pivot table inside of this spreadsheet that we have open. And all you would do there is, again, the same steps. You just click somewhere inside the information. You click on insert, and the bottom of that, if you click on that, you can get information from external data sources. Okay, so again, if you do have that set up, please contact me and I can run through that with you, and we can grab all those other spreadsheets and combine them in one. And it's really nice and easy, and you've got all that information at your fingertips. Pivot charts are the exact same thing, just a different view. So I'm going to click somewhere inside the data. I'm going to click on my insert ribbon that I'm already on. And then I'm going to come over here to the right, and there's pivot chart. I click on that. Because I've clicked inside the data, I already have everything set up. Down here, it's just asking me, do I want a new worksheet or do I want to put it in the existing worksheet? A new worksheet, I'm going to click on OK. We'll create tab number 17 for me. It might be tab 3 for you, but I like them on separate tabs. Even though it's not a big deal, it could be right there beside the data. But here is the same exact example. I'm going to grab date and put it down as my legend. I'm going to grab item and put it down as my axis, and price over as my value. And again, here's the information. It is just in more of a visual format. Okay, I love pivot charts because this is very visual. You can see that laptop is obviously our biggest selling item, and you can see the dates. Again, I can switch this around. I want item over there, and I want date over here. And now I've got dates. So the first was definitely our best date to sell. Now, when you come over here, our second was our best date to sell the printers. The printers are in green. Okay, so pivot charts, exact same steps as pivot tables, just a different view. I'm going to come back over and see if you guys have any questions. Okay, I see that I'm cutting out quite a bit at the for a couple of you guys. So that's one of the reasons we do record this. We'll make sure to get you a recording. I hopefully on the recording I'm not cutting out, but the internet connection might not be great. So make sure you look at the recording. And again, you guys, please do not hesitate to email me. It's just ccase. Let me type that in for everybody. At walton.uark.edu. Okay, you guys all see that. Yes, Miss Andrea, I'll do the steps again. So let me go back over to Excel. I'm going to go back over to sheet 1 because that's where my data is. So step number 1, I always say step number 1 is to type in the data and just make sure that it's set up properly. So I've got my date, my items, and my price. Okay, so to create the pivot table, number 1, click somewhere inside the data. Number 2, click on Insert up there from the Insert ribbon area. Step number 3, click on the Pivot Table button. And I say the top part of that because it's just the bottom part will give you a couple different options. So click on the top part of the Pivot Table button. Step number 4, I'm just going to go ahead and click on OK. And then step number 5, drag your items, your fields, your information to where you want them. So I'm going to grab date, drag it down into columns, items, down into rows, and price down into values. And again, that's just, I start somewhere. I might not like it that way, but again, I kind of know what to do because I've worked with this data so much. And that's where you'll get to the point where you're going to be your own data that you recognize, and you'll be able to understand it better than my data, which is keyboards, laptops, and printers. And then again, I can drag to change anything I want. I'm just clicking, holding, and dragging over in the right area of the window. Okay. And then again, if I go back to sheet 1, there's my data. Okay, any other questions? Okay, so 2 things, you guys, please do not forget. We recorded this so you can watch it again if you need to. But even more importantly, if you want to hop on a call with me or a Zoom session and we can go over your spreadsheet and even before you begin, if you want to, and how to set up your data. If you've already set up your data, please don't retype it. I will help you flip that information around so you can create a pivot table based off of your information that's already there. And again, if you have any questions along the way, I'm available to you guys all the time. So it doesn't matter if a year from now you're creating your first pivot table, please keep our email address. And you've also got the website and probably Julie's email address too. So please don't lose those. We're at the university. It's not going to go anywhere. So make sure that you utilize that because we would really like to help you with all that. Okay. So again, you guys, thank you so much for being here. And as an attendee of this conversation, you will be emailed a copy of this presentation, of this recording, along with an evaluation, as well as a brief information or contact information for you to be able to get a hold of us. You can also find us at sbtdc.uark.edu. We are also on social media at Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. So please don't hesitate to get a hold of us. We've got a lot of really great consultants and people that work for ASBTDC that can help you with just about anything that you need. But again, please email me with any of your information. As you can see, I love pivot tables and I love helping you with those. So I will do my best to do that. But I hope you guys have a great day. And I'm sorry for any of the interruptions. Zoom sometimes can be our favorite thing and sometimes our worst. But again, we'll make sure that you get all the information that you need. Thank you, everybody, and have a great rest of your day.